Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the mayor has returned. The bearded bulldog is back. I got my right hand man with me, and we are here for our NFL conference title recap edition of the Sports Wars podcast. As I mentioned before, we're back to our original dynamic duo. We have alternating personalities and sets of people who come onto the show depending on everyone's availability. Everybody's got jobs, everybody's got lives. But today you're getting the two main OGs outside of Mr. Coming to You with Another Video himself. How you feeling tonight, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling even better after yesterday's game. Well, at least after one of the games yesterday.
Right.
But yeah, I'm always here. Always glad to be talking football, man. Even in the off season, football never sleeps.
Yeah, no, it's a year-round thing. They know that they're a king league for a reason, and really the only time of the year that they concede their number one status is basically the end of March and the NBA Finals. But in any case, speaking of NBA, we're actually going to start off with a little bit of NBA news and happenings. As of a few hours ago today, the Houston Rockets traded basically the ownership terms of Carmelo Anthony's contract to the Chicago Bulls. Carmelo Anthony is a 10-time All-Star, and he more than likely will not play 1 second with the Bulls. They more than likely are going to trade or waive him before the February 7th trade deadline. And one particular team name that is buzzing around about maybe acquiring him, and a lot of you guys out there are going to roll your eyes as soon as I say this, but it is what it is. Yes, the Lakers are thinking about acquiring him. Now, as of right now, do they have an active roster spot for him? No. They would have to vacate one of the available spots. But the Lakers are it's such a situation of uncertainty and, like Colin Cowherd has to say, pending transactions with regard to who is and isn't going to be on this team. It's a toss-up, man. I feel like the main guy down there who has really shown LeBron something is Kyle Kuzma. Literally everyone else is liable to have whatever happen. So what's your overall reaction?
I mean, the first thing is like how crazy it is. Like how I know it seems like it's been a lifetime ago, but to me, I mean, we're talking what two seasons. Like how far Melo has fallen. 2 years ago, he was still with the Knicks, and he spends last year in OKC. They trade him, and the team gets better. And then Houston decides to bench him and they get better. Harden is actually suiting up right now to try to get his 20th straight game of 30 plus.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Ridiculous.
And then Melo is now about to be traded to the second team in the last year that he's never going to play a second for. Because a lot of people forget between him signing with the Rockets and being kind of thrown away by the Thunder, he was traded to the Atlanta Hawks and never played a second. And the Hawks kind of used that trade as a kind of a salary cap dump because that's when they got rid of was it Dennis Schroeder and I don't want to say somebody else, but they used that to kind of start their rebuild. And the Bulls are I think they're doing the same thing. I didn't see what exactly was traded. Has there been any word on what exactly was traded for?
Let me see if I can't take a look here.
Let's see.
Pull it up.
I know.
Because I'm not
it just says the Rockets not only trading Carmelo, they're paying the Bulls to take him. They're trading.
Oh, so they're buying it out like outright.
Yeah, and so yeah, he's that was Woj saying that.
Okay.
Let's see.
And there's no greater insider voice within the industry than him.
Yeah. So I mean, he's apparently Mike D'Antoni was frustrated because Houston's roster crunch because the league office wasn't open today to process the Carmelo trade. It cost James Nunnally his roster spot. So basically what they had to do, they had Melo inactive And because Houston, dumbass, filled the roster, they had to cut a guy so they could make Carmelo active so that they could trade him. What the fuck? He lost his 10-day contract.
I'm not sure what's that. I'm not sure what's worse, that or the whole Marshawn Brooks controversy trade a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's fucking dumb. But I mean, the rumor was that, or I guess the end game is the Rockets traded Carmelo to make a spot for Kenneth Faried, who up until now I thought he was still with Denver. I don't even know where Faried would have been playing. But yeah, man, it's crazy how far they've fallen. I know the Lakers. And I don't know if they're just saying that for LeBron's sake because this is his buddy. I know the Lakers keep getting thrown around as like, oh, well, we'd love to sign him, but only if we got a potential roster spot. So what they're saying is hey, we might sign some guys to some 10-day contracts, but we're not going to release them to sign Carmelo. So, I mean, I don't really know what Carmelo can do right now. Like, where are you going to bring him?
See, the thing is, and again, this is one of the consistent talking points. I don't say this to try to demean or take away from just how prolific of a scorer this guy is and has been over a long stretch of time. I think in recent years, just the overall dialogue around Carmelo has gotten to a point where is there fair criticism? Yeah, but also it's skewed in terms of just how spectacular of a scorer this guy has been and was over points. I mean, he got the Knicks close to an Eastern Conference championship back in, what was it, like 2013?
I think so, 2012, 2013.
Yeah, and they ended up, I believe, losing to Indiana, so we didn't get the whole New York versus Miami matchup that I know myself, I was clamoring to see that in the Eastern Conference Finals that year. And it was disappointing that it didn't work out. But, yeah, man, I mean, as far as now, realistically speaking, not even because, oh, well, he can't do anything. I think it just comes down to natural age and attrition. He's going to have to be a guy to come off the bench. But if you're a team who needs a legitimate spark off the bench and somebody who's going to, know their spot and, kind of play to their position, there's a handful of teams out there who could use that legitimately.
I mean, the problem is, and I think it was the problem in Houston, and I think it was the problem in OKC is, yes, I think the problem with OKC is they tried to make a very hard, like a hard right transition with Melo. They were like, oh yeah, we know you've been the star of your teams your entire career, but now that you're in OKC, we need you to be the third guy, not take a step back slowly to, now you're the option B. No, you're behind Russ and you're behind PG now. And then he wasn't ready for that. And then they tried to do the same thing in Houston where it's like, oh yeah, now you're not only behind Harden, who clearly the number one option in Houston, you're not only behind CP3, but you might be behind Clint Capella too. And
yeah,
I think he wasn't ready for that. And if to me, it all comes down to what role is Melo willing to accept. I mean, because if he still has it in his head, like, no, man, I'm a 30 a game guy, I don't think anybody's going to want that. I mean, I'm sure he could go play with, like, Sacramento, but, I mean, even then, is he going to want to be wiping noses out there? I mean, what contender is looking for what Melo does right now?
It would be difficult. Like you think of, oh, well, look at what Denver's doing. I can't really see it happening there because, one, I have no idea what their cap situation is. But two, I know that they're a legitimately, like, young team. So in terms of coming off the bench at his age, not quite sure.
I mean,
I was talking to I was talking to my manager about this, not at work, about this not too long ago. And he asked me, in terms of coming off the bench, giving a spark, making up for the aging of Iguodala and Sean Livingston and the departure of JaVale McGee, what would you think about bringing him to the Warriors? And I say, I mean, in terms of a decent, offensive spark off the bench, it wouldn't be the worst acquisition in the world. But again, him coming and being a bench guy with a starting lineup of all stars, and they're all younger than him. I don't know if he's gonna accept that.
Yeah, I mean, and to me, it's the only team. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, the only team that I think that how many guys in this league are Melo really going to listen to? Is he going to be like, you know what, you're right? Because Houston didn't have none of those guys. Melo's going to listen to championships. He's going to listen to what championship players have to say. Chris Paul ain't it. James Harden ain't it. Clint Capella ain't it. OKC, yeah, sure. Russ is MVP. Russ ain't won titles. PG ain't won titles. If any team could use him right now, and as much as they're kind of waffling and biding their time, it seems like it's the Lakers. I mean, they're right now they're the 9th seed. They're half a game back of the Clippers. How long has LeBron been out now, and when's he due to come back? I mean,
well, he got hurt on Christmas Day, and today is January 21st, so it's been just about a month, but he was cleared to return to practice this week.
Okay.
So it
makes sense that they've kind of slipped a little bit with LeBron not there. And so, I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But see, even with that, there's, to kind of move into a related subject, there's been a lot of chatter this week, in and out of the various circles that the nature of LeBron's groin injury may be a little bit worse than what the Lakers are leading on. Because last week they released this really mundane, run-of-the-mill, just unassuming, unoffensive press release kind of talking about the timeline of his return. And Rich Paul, who is, LeBron's best friend and his primary, business associate, flipped the fuck out in response to that. And it's like, well, LeBron's going to come back when the fuck he feels like and when the fuck we feel it's ready and when he's ready to go and blah, 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 blah. And if I'm Magic Johnson and the Buss family and some of the upper brass within the Lakers, I'm looking at that kind of like your look like, bro, what are you so upset about? Like, we're just giving a very mundane timetable to the press to kind of give them an update on what's going on.
I don't think everybody in LeBron's camp is happy about this Laker move.
It would seem that way.
I mean, because you think about it, in Cleveland, he kind of had the run of the franchise. In Miami, he had it up to a point. If you listen to some, they'll say he had it up. He had the run of the franchise until that next contract came up, and Riley wasn't having it.
Right.
And then that's what caused him to leave. And he knew kind of coming in, there's very few brands in the NBA that LeBron himself isn't bigger than. Okay, LeBron's bigger than the Cleveland brand. He's bigger than the Minnesota Timberwolves. You're not bigger than the Lakers. There's some franchises that are like that. I mean, in baseball, nobody's bigger than the Yankees. Okay,
no.
Yankees could sign fucking 20 all-stars. None of them are bigger than that logo on the front of their hat.
They're all gonna have to get in line and adhere to their no facial hair rule.
Yeah, and the Cowboys. I mean, I dislike the Cowboys. They're one of those brands, and no one man is bigger than the logo above the helmet or on the helmet. There's nothing. And I think LeBron kind of liked that challenge, and maybe his. Maybe the guys in his camp were like, dude, why? Just hang back, stay in Cleveland where we can do what the fuck we want to do. And so, I mean, that may be kind of, I hope this doesn't lead to some riff in his group, man. Cause I mean, he's always been, I've kind of envied that with LeBron, and that he, not only when he came up, he brought his boys up, and he didn't just have a bunch of hangers on. He was like, you know what, I'm gonna put you through school.
Yeah,
take care of your family.
The way that he went about it was so outside the norm.
Yeah,
and I feel like for them to get established and become so successful within business and commerce, I feel like that's the underlying reason why certain various elder figures, Phil Jackson comes to mind. That's the real reason why they're not comfortable with LeBron. Not because of anything he does or doesn't do on the court.
Because he's
but
so,
because,
out of the box.
Yeah, he represents the old guard changing and having not as much power and influence.
And now you've got dudes who are pulling LeBron, who want to know about their brand, who are focused on. Of course, I mean, you get some dudes who like straight basketball. That's it. That's all I want to do. But you get other guys who want the bigger picture, who want to do other shit outside of basketball or outside of sports in general.
Right.
He said LeBron's one of the. I mean, obviously Jordan was one of the first to do it. He was the McDonald's commercials and the Hanes commercials. He wasn't just endorsing basketball shit.
Yeah, ballpark hot dogs, Gatorade.
So
he was everywhere.
And LeBron's kind of the first to do it in the kind of the social media age, where, I mean, dude, everything is branded. His Instagram page, his Twitter.
It's crazy. It's all very calculated. Not to insinuate that his sentiments are disingenuous, because I mean he is.
Oh yeah,
let's keep it a buck. He's a black kid from the inner city, but even his various social standings, it's not just him shooting from the hip. It's all structured a certain way.
And I love when people try to discount some of the shit he does and say, I mean, trying to avoid political shit here, but a lot of people, when they don't agree with someone's message, they try to downplay someone as being stupid or one of the crazy things I heard is LeBron made some comments a few weeks ago, and not everybody agreed with the comments. Mm-hmm. Immediately the opposing side was just they go straight to attacking his how smart he is as a guy. Like, dude, the dude is fucking brilliant. Like, he's that regardless of whether you graduated from high school or college or whatever, which he did graduate from high school. The dude as a businessman, like, honestly, dude, if you're attacking motherfuckers,
unparalleled.
Yeah, there's only a handful of dudes as businessmen and like that in the league that I would put like on LeBron's level. Like, a lot of people don't realize Shaq is a fucking amazing businessman, dude. Like,
oh yeah, very, very high acumen.
And it's not even like, yeah, you see him on the Gold Bond commercials, you see him in the what's the General car insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Side story about that, man, the craziest shit I ever heard. The reason he's a spokesman for the General's insurance is because they were his car insurance company when he was a broke ass kid at LSU. Like, that's why he bought like stake in the company, because he was just like, look, man, this is when I was a broke ass kid in college and I needed car insurance. They helped me out, so now I'm fucking spokesman for him. LeBron,
that's a stand-up move.
Yeah, I mean, Shaq's got restaurants. Shaq's got all kind of businesses. I want to say I was reading something that says Shaq has made more money since he left basketball than he did when he was in basketball.
Oh yeah,
and he was one of the first like monster contracts of the new age.
And it's to me, Shaq from the prior era, amongst others, like LeBron primarily now. It represents athletes becoming more aware about building generational and foundational stability and wealth from a financial standpoint. Because, hell, when LeBron was a young guy coming up and when Shaq was getting into the later stages of his career, two of the main stories in terms of guys who were just filthy rich and the bottom fell out were Terrell Owens and Allen Iverson.
Yeah.
Another
one that comes to mind for me is Antoine Walker.
Yeah. It's like there's all this just, okay, yeah, you're super talented, you make it, you have all these riches, you got a giant mansion, all these cars, but when you're in a situation where no one really knew how to manage that amount of money, and then next thing you know, a good portion of it is gone, I feel like a lot of young guys coming up quietly observe that and are thinking, okay, if I ever get to a point of that prominence, I don't want to blow it on the latest Benz and a house with 20 rooms and not have anything to lay down for my children and my grandchildren.
I mean, and we're not talking about like to use another example, like Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch isn't. I don't want to say he's not a businessman, but he lives probably not the lifestyle of a superstar athlete that you would probably you would think of.
Right.
I mean, didn't he joke around that he hadn't cashed a game check in like 5 years?
Up until, I don't know what he's done with the money from his Raider contracts, but in terms of the money that he made in all the years in Buffalo and Seattle, when they were going back and forth to Super Bowls and whatnot, he saved every cent of all of those contracts. Yeah. Like, the money that he spent, him, it's a weird parallel in terms of, where they're from and the teams they play for, but him and Rob Gronkowski are basically carbon copies of each other.
Yeah.
All their actual contract money, they don't spend a dime. Yeah. They spend endorsement money.
And I brought Marshawn up because that's different than like LeBron and Shaq. Because anybody who I grew up watching Shaq, we know Shaq lived a lavish, like, big rides, big houses. Everything. But he didn't let that shit get carried away. And he also, I mean, he kept, as much as he's spending money, he's making that money back. I mean,
right.
I mean, like I said, man, this stupid athlete trope, it just makes me laugh that people, like, immediately, whenever they disagree with an athlete, they're just like, oh, he's just a big dumb jock. Like, bro, he's making better business decisions than you. And, like, all that shut up and dribble bullshit, like, sit down, bro. Like, you're making yourself look dumb.
It's corny, it's lame, it's antiquated. And it's figures like that are going to keep taking L's within the public discourse until they learn their lesson.
Yeah.
But speaking of levels of intellect within competition, we're going to go ahead and segue into these conference title games. But we're going to save the NFC one for last.
Right.
It's very safe to say, and frankly, it has been for a while, but after this past weekend between both conference games, it's safe to say that the meathead era of thinking, coaching, and just overall approach to football, it's whatever is past dead, that's what it is. You have to be smart. You have to be strategic. You have to have a game plan A, B, C, and D, and be willing to adjust and make whatever changes you need on the fly to do what is effective. By all conventional standards, on paper, just in terms of roster spots, personnel, age, talent, home field advantage, by all accord, the Kansas City Chiefs should have won by at least 2 scores. Yet here we are staring down the barrel of another Patriot Super Bowl berth as they won and defeated the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium 37-31. Now, like in most big playoff games, Tom Brady had a kind of a sloppy start. They got an early touchdown drive, and then after that, he threw a red zone pick. Considering the fact that he wasn't getting much of any pressure from KC's vaunted pass rush, he just wasn't all that sharp in the first half. But Kansas City, on the other side, they were completely unable to capitalize and were shut out in the first half. Patrick Mahomes spent most of the game, in general, sitting on the bench watching. And after they got that damn coin toss in overtime, we all knew it was over.
Yeah.
So your overall thoughts, reaction, sentiments?
If Kansas City didn't take an hour and a half to actually get into the game, I think we would have had a different outcome. I would have liked to see fourth quarter KC in the first quarter, or at the very least the fucking second quarter.
Yeah.
It just took them too long to get started. And I think Brady kind of thrived on that shit there for a second. Like when it turned into a shootout in the fourth quarter, I think Brady woke up. But even then, Brady didn't. I mean, he threw what, one touchdown? I mean,
yeah.
He He threw one touchdown, and that was in the second quarter with 27 seconds to go. If someone would have told me through most of two quarters that the game was going to be 7-0 New England, I wouldn't have believed you. Especially after that first one, how that first one ended. And then when KC came out being down 14-0 at half, and then they just marched down the field in like 2 minutes and 4 seconds and immediately scored a touchdown, I was like, oh shit, they're coming back now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Patriots could only manage a field goal, and the next thing you know, it's 21-7. So I'm like, hell yeah. And then, man, it just I don't know. I know we had to. I want to say me and a couple guys in the group had a conversation about defense nowadays. How it's pretty much non-existent. That you need situational defense.
Right.
If KC doesn't go out and spend every draft pick and every dollar of free agency on their defense, they deserve every bad thing that happens to them. It just
it was particularly. I mean, it's been known that their secondary has been inept all year. Orlando Scandrick and a bunch of those other guys, and then Eric Berry coming back off injury. But I mean, he's not a spring chicken anymore, and the nature of his industry pretty much hinders his speed. Man, it was just bad all around.
I think it was a drive late in the game. Like, I think it was in the fourth quarter. I think it was the one in OT too. It was just like, okay, third down, they're going to fucking Julian Edelman. And everybody knew it was coming. Every person in the stadium knew Brady is throwing to Edelman. Don't leave him open. Every time. There was 2 third and longs that he hit Edelman and bam, first down, 20 yards, bam, 12 yards. And it's like, if you can't stop the most obvious shit, I mean, Gronk has been a shell of himself all year. But I want to say he got more targets in this game than he had gotten the entire season. Gronk got 11 targets for 6 catches. He wasn't a leading receiver. Edelman was, but there was no long shots down the field. James White, his longest reception was 30 yards. I mean,
earlier today, Cowherd was saying that at 11 a.m. in the morning yesterday at the Patriots Hotel, that as they were exiting to go down to the stadium, prep, have their pregame meal, go through the motions, right? Belichick and McDaniels go to the offense and they say, oh, hey, guys, here's 8 new plays that we're implementing into the game plan right now. Make sure you take a look at this. Literally hours before the game, like, hey, 8 new plays. We didn't look at this in practice. We didn't look at this in class. Pay attention to this shit. They used 5 of them. All 5 worked.
I mean, and that's that kind of shit you can pull with. That's kind of shit you can pull with a Tom Brady as your quarterback. If you give Mahomes that, don't get me wrong, I like Mahomes. But Mahomes is he's a second-year quarterback. His first year as a starter. You can do that. Like, hey, here's 5 new plays on the game day of the playoff game on the road. There's maybe 5 quarterbacks you can do that with in the league. I mean, Brady, Breeze, maybe Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, Big Ben. I probably wouldn't trust to do that.
Who else?
Luck? No.
Luck, I think you could. And I always say that now because he has fucking time to throw because he's not running for his life anymore.
So, I mean, maybe 5 quarterbacks.
Dak, no. Cam, no. Probably not. As much as it pains me to say Carr, probably not because the O-line's really bad too. Andy Dalton, like
Russ, Luck, Rodgers, Breeze, Brady,
Brady,
maybe Matt Ryan, just because the weapons
Yeah, I could go ahead and throw Matt Ryan in there.
So I
I
mean,
definitely could.
maybe. I mean,
So but I mean, even still, you're talking about like barely over half a dozen guys.
yeah, if that. So I mean, that's crazy shit. I hadn't heard that story. That's insane.
Yeah, man.
I like one of the stories that did come out that I did like was apparently after everything had kind of simmered down, Brady made a special trip over to the KC locker room to seek out like Pat Mahomes.
Right.
And I don't think it's really come out what was said, but it was more like it was words of encouragement from what I understand.
Right.
It wasn't a Marcus Peters seeking out Sean Payton type deal.
Which we're going to get into in a few minutes.
But yeah, man, I just the game got it was so to me the game was terrible for like the first 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter got like it got fun fast. But once it hit OT and the Pats won that coin toss, like dude, I turned the TV off and I was like, I'm done. That sick feeling came creeping back. And I was just like, I cannot watch this. The only way it would have gotten worse is if it would have been a James White touchdown.
Oh God!
And I just
full post-traumatic stress disorder.
And like I couldn't like as soon as they got the ball, I was like, I'm gonna go to bed.
Well,
and then my phone started blowing up. So
for me, I barely caught some of the first quarter because I was actually on my way out to dinner and a movie with a couple friends, and fast forward to the fourth quarter, we're at Cheesecake Factory, right? So, at the bar, they have TVs, they'll show whatever the major sporting event is, right? We are in the East Bay area of Northern California. This is a game between Boston and Kansas City. And when it looked like Kansas City was going to intercept the ball late in the fourth, but then the kid dropped it, the entire fucking section of the restaurant cheered. Yeah! And then he fucking dropped it. Like, oh! That's how thick the sentiment around the Patriots is.
And what's crazy is Brady is a California boy.
But before we move on, it's like I gotta try to, make a legitimate effort to give our followers and our audience, more leeway into where I'm at with the whole New England thing now because they're going to get another Super Bowl. Yeah, I'm a Raider guy. Deep down, the Tuck rule does still sting. For years and years and years in my younger, brasher, more immature and adolescent days, I despised New England with the power of 1,000 suns. I am nowhere near that place anymore. No, not because I suddenly like them, not because I root for them, not because they earned it or deserved it. Hell no. But post 28-3, I just came to a point of realizing there's nothing in it for me in terms of having an emotional investment to root against these guys. I'm just gonna like from that point moving forward, you don't serve yourself anything to just be indifferent to them. Like if they win in 2 weeks, okay, I'm gonna lose approximately 0.0 seconds of sleep.
I mean, of all
cool.
the of all the possible outcomes, me and you of this championship weekend, me and you discussed what I viewed as the worst case scenario, and I think that kind of helped me come to grips with the possibility of New England kind of winning the AFC Championship game. Mm-hmm. Was as long as the other guys didn't. I just. In the immediate kind of, as you said, the immediate 28 kind of post 28-3, I just was nauseated by everything New England, and I'm still to a point. I mean, I close every podcast with "fuck Tom Brady." I mean, it's very hard to describe my feelings on the Patriots and Tom Brady because. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, well, he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT," and I'm just like, I don't like the dude enough that I don't even want to give that. I'm not going to say he's not, but I'm not going to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to suck his dick." Oh no, I'm not doing.
Yeah, by no means.
So I mean, I'm very conflicted. I realize that this is a once in a lifetime thing that we have viewed. over these last 20 years. I guess another thing that kind of comforts me is that I know the sun's going down on it. We don't have 20 more years of this shit. We don't have 5 more years of this shit. If we're lucky, we only have just one more game of this shit. So if one more game of this shit means that's it, that I don't ever have to hear about the shit again, and we'll just have one off season of them sucking his dick because he won another one, then I'm okay with that. If him winning means that we're done, I'll take that trade. I know a lot of the smug Patriots fans that you and I have both known in the past. I'm sure you've come across. I want to say one in particular doesn't really jump out, but because he's kind of shitty sometimes, but not to the degree of some. But he there's some that are shitty but realize just how lucky they've been, and there's some that are shitty that don't realize that this is a once in a lifetime, like never gonna happen again.
Yeah, there's
be prepared for 100 years of darkness after this shit, motherfuckers.
there is a very stark contrast within that fan base and that fan culture of the people who come from the prior era of watching Willie McGinnis and those guys go and get their asses handed to them by Brett Favre.
Terry Glenn,
yeah.
Drew Bledsoe, Terry Glenn.
And then there's the other group, the other contingency that they have no scope of how bad it's going to be when this thing does come to its last stop.
They think that this ride is going to go on forever. When they don't realize, like, ask the Dolphins how much luck they've had replacing Dan Marino. Ask the Broncos how much luck they've had replacing John Elway.
They better hope it's a peaceful and voluntary retirement, because at that age, this dude is one bad quarterback sack away from being retired forcibly.
I mean, the kind of the blips on the radar, kind of the outliers are San Francisco, who followed Joe Montana with Steve Young, another Hall of Famer,
right?
And the Packers, who followed Brett Favre with Aaron Rodgers. That shit doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't follow one Super Bowl winning quarterback with another one.
Yeah, man, and next year they're going to have full illustration of that when Andrew Luck, who followed Peyton Manning, slaps the shit out of him in the AFC Championship. Moving right along, this is what many of you have been waiting for outside of our black and gold contingency. The next 15 to 20 minutes is going to be a little bit rough for you. I'm going to go ahead and shut the fuck up and give the floor over to the Bearded Bulldog, and he's going to let us know what the results were of that little sporting event down in New Orleans.
Yes, New Orleans Saints fans. I want to start this with yes, it was pass interference. It absolutely was. The DB has actually come on. They've interviewed him. They stuck a mic in his face, and he was like, "Oh, was that pass interference?" And the dude was pretty much like, "Fuck yeah, it was. I got him," which is great to me. I love that he didn't. Well, I tried to. No, fuck that. He didn't even try. He was not like a couple years ago. The Atlanta Falcons Seahawks were playing, and Matt Ryan throws a pass down the field, and Richard Sherman grabs him by the arm and pulls his arm.
Yeah, just mauls Julio.
Yeah. And then Sherman is like, well, I was just playing the ball. Now, fuck that. the Rams defensive back was like, yeah, I got him. And I turned around to look at the refs, and his eyes were wide and big, like, oh, shit, they're going to call this one. And he said he heard one of the refs say the ball looked like it was tipped. That's why it didn't get called, because the ref thought the ball was tipped. Which, if the ball was tipped, it's not pass interference, motherfuckers. Now, the camera angle. Let's review that shit too. The popular camera angle that they keep showing, the one behind the receiver in the end zone, is a bad fucking angle. Okay, it looks like he got there 10 yards before the ball did. He fucking did not. It is a bang bang play. If you see it from any other angle, the typical camera angle in a football game, you see up above. When I first saw it, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, okay, that's pretty much a bang-bang play. The only thing that really looks bad is the DB didn't turn around. He didn't turn around, and then he popped him. That's what looks the worst. Now, upon further review, yeah, he got there early. But he got there a step to half a step early, not 4 yards early like somebody else was saying. With all that bullshit said, the Saints still kicked the field goal. They still took the lead. The Rams got the ball back with like one timeout and a minute and a half. They could have easily stopped them at any point. They didn't. The Rams walked down the field, kicked 3, and then went to overtime. Where the Saints got the fucking ball first, where they could have gone down the field, scored a touchdown, and the game would have been over, like the Pats game.
Right.
But they didn't. Drew Brees threw an interception. The Rams got the ball, and Greg Zuerlein kicked a 57-yard field goal, the longest field goal in Rams postseason history to go to the Super Bowl.
And it was right on the money.
He could have kicked that motherfucker from another 10 yards. It looked good. That shit would look good from his own 40. Like, holy shit. There's been plenty of excuses. There's been plenty of bitching. I saw Michael Thomas quoted a section of the rule book that says that Goodell could restart the game from that point and play it over. Fuck that. It's a slippery slope. Then every team is going to be like, oh, let's play this one because they blew this call. The only thing I can agree with is make PI reviewable. Okay. But I mean, there was no flag. What are you going to do? How are you going to overturn a call that didn't happen? They're going to throw pass interference play. They're going to throw it everywhere and then just go back and maybe review every one of them. I mean,
it's too dicey.
And then a pass interference trying to review a pass interference in slow motion on a replay is going to be fucking ridiculous because there's contact every play. The solution to this is full-time refs. Simplify the fucking rule book. Like, what the fuck is a catch and what's not a catch? What's pass interference? What's not pass interference? All that. Oh, he has to turn around and look at the ball. Not necessarily. The good cornerback. I mean, hell, me and you have seen it. The good cornerbacks don't have to look at the ball. They look at the receiver and see what his reaction.
Because they know what the route is. They know what the stem is. So, like, okay.
I mean,
at a certain point, this guy's going to turn.
Didn't we hear? I mean, I could have swore earlier in the same game we heard Troy Aikman and Joe Buck praising a corner because he never looked back for the ball. He looked at the wide receiver's reaction, his hands going up, and the DB stuck his hand up. And they were like, "Oh, that's great defense." Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't make a guy have to turn around and make a play on the ball, and that's the only way it's not pass interference. That's bullshit.
Right.
But yeah, man, it was glorious to me.
My initial thought was, well, Roy and John are happy now because their nightmare scenario is no longer a tangible reality.
Fucking nightmare scenario.
My other takeaway is that, okay, this Rams team, they hit a little bit of a rough patch late in the season. All right. Really tough out in Chicago. Really tough out against Nick Foles back when he still had a little bit of that Foles magic. But they rebooted and reset against the 49ers and against the Cardinals, two, lame duck opponents. And then them boys rolled into town with that super stellar defense. They smacked them around. But the irony of this is that, for my money, the Saints season ended in Dallas. If you look at Drew Brees' QBR, touchdown to interception ratio, and even going beyond stats, just looking at the velocity and the zip on his ball, it's almost as if, well, really, it's not even almost. There was a very stark transition and regression of his propensity to get the ball down the field. In that game against the Eagles, which, in all honesty, they probably should have lost if Alshon Jeffrey didn't drop a pass that he catches 100 out of 100 times. the Saints just were not getting the ball down the field. I remember that one play where they took Taysom and put him in, and he threw a pass that would have been a touchdown if not for a penalty, and it got right there. Whereas Breeze is looking like he's hesitant, and then he's throwing the ball, and it doesn't have any mustard on it. For a 40-year-old guy, that's an issue.
I mean, you might be onto something with the he just wasn't the same after the Dallas game. Pre Dallas game, he threw 2 interceptions all year. One against Minnesota and then one against Atlanta. The Atlanta game happened the week before. That was Thanksgiving Day.
Right.
From the Dallas game on, he threw 6 interceptions. He threw 6 interceptions to 7 touchdowns. So 7 out of 6. 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, which is unheard of for Drew Brees.
Cre'Von LeBlanc of the Philadelphia Eagles is a guy that Doug Peterson and Malcolm Jenkins pulled out of a gym at a fucking 24-hour fitness somewhere on Broad Street. You're getting picked off by random no-name second and third string guys in a divisional game at home. That counts for something. And the other major takeaway I had, aside from the regression of Breeze and of the Saints' offensive juggernaut becoming so pedestrian, like they were easily the least explosive offense of the Final Four, which is insane. But the much maligned Rams secondary, a healthy Talib returning, Marcus Peters, Johnson, Joyner, all those guys, they effectively put that Saints receiving core in a bottleneck throughout the duration of that game and allowed the Rams offense to slowly but surely crawl and scratch their way back into it. Michael Thomas, he balled out in that first matchup. He did kind of eat Marcus Peters' lunch. But when number 21 came, when that big bald dude from Texas came around, suddenly Michael Thomas wasn't going off. I thought that was very, very significant matchup-wise.
I mean, the leading receiver for New Orleans was Kamara. It tells me lots of dump-offs, 11 receptions, 96 yards. Thomas was very well contained. Four catches, 36 yards on 7 targets. They didn't go down the field a lot. The longest reception was to Ted Ginn. That one was 43 yards, but he totaled 58. So 3 catches for 58 yards, and one of those was 43 yards. Breeze threw for less than 250, sacked twice, threw an interception. I thought it was some of the play calls. I know that, like I said, the Saints fans are going to want to bitch about the refs and all this bullshit. Bitch about what makes more sense. Some of Sean Payton's play calls.
Right.
They were down that same drive where the missed pass interference. That first down, they threw the ball and it was an incomplete pass. That right there saved the Rams a timeout. That's the reason the Rams, the Saints started that drive and the Rams had 2 timeouts. That's the reason they still had a timeout left to go down the fucking field, because Sean Payton decided to throw the ball on first down.
Right.
In field goal range. In field goal range now. So they Saints fans want to try to pick on the refs, and one of the great threads in the today in the group was that the NFL's rigged. And I'm like, they really wanted a Jared Goff versus Tom Brady Super Bowl, but they didn't want a Drew Brees versus Brady Super Bowl. Are you shitting me right now?
That makes absolutely no sense.
This would have been the best quarterback matchup since Breeze and Manning, and that matchup was really before Breeze became Breeze. So the best matchup since Elway versus Montana. And you think the NFL rigged the game, and then he tried to use Bountygate as a justification, like, oh, Goodell still hates the Saints for Bountygate. You mean some shit that happened 10 years ago, and there's there's like one player still left on the team, that Saints team from that team, and that's Drew Brees. Come on, man. Like, use common sense. I mean,
the whole, all the narratives around rigging, it's always conditional to the biases of a person who's accusing it.
Yeah. And it's
like, sorry.
That's like the Saints. I'm not the Falcons. My Falcons fans aren't above it. That's they try to pull that same shit when the 28-3 thing happened. Like, oh, it's rigged. They were trying to give it to Brady. You mean the guy that the NFL suspended earlier that year, the one that was in the MVP conversation? That like dude, there's too much money in this shit, and there's too many people that would have to keep that secret. There's no. So you mean
there's too many loose ends for them to try to. And granted, listen, I'm not saying I have complete trust in the NFL that they're just this holy, sanctified organization. Like, no, it's a for-profit private organization that's owned by globalist billionaires. They aren't fucking saints, no pun intended.
The shitstorm that would come down if it came out that any of this shit was rigged.
The actual logistics of making that happen. Ain't nobody got time for all that shit, man. Like, no, sorry.
It's funny is that the guy that pretty much the officiating crew that they're accusing of rigging the game, the Rams some Rams fans tried to start a petition to get the guy taken off because the Rams had not won a game that this guy had officiated.
That's even crazier to kind of, briefly jump back into the prior game. The referee of the Chiefs-Patriots championship was the same dude from the fucking Deflate game between Indy and New England.
So I mean,
and a bunch of those Patriots fans like, oh yeah, that guy's gonna fuck us.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's crazy to me. Like, it's some insane tinfoil bullshit. Like, to me, some of the conspiracy theories are fun. What's the NBA lottery, the frozen envelope, the bent corner on the Knicks envelope, another NBA conspiracy that Michael Jordan didn't retire the first time he was suspended for gambling. Some of those are
the flu game wasn't actually the flu. He was just hungover as fuck.
Either hungover or my personal favorite is it was more nefarious. It was he was poisoned. It was some bad pepperoni.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite conspiracy theories, that the flu game wasn't actually flu. It was it was either hungover or some bad pizza that he had ordered the night before.
Yeah, someone in fucking Utah just the rap wasn't over it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
They put it, was it kale pectate or some shit?
Some shit.
Like, let's make him shit himself during the game. Like, come on, dog. Like,
I still dropped 28 on y'all bitch asses. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. All in all, I mean, an L is an L. I really can't manufacture sympathy for the Saints because for me, it comes down to the simplicity of the fact that they peaked too early. They peaked in like late October, early November.
And then got super cocky about it.
Yeah. Hit a wall against Dallas. And then from then on, it was just trying to find their identity again, and they never quite got it. And for the Rams to travel fucking 2,600 miles, however long it is from LA to New Orleans, to not be able to fucking hear each other talk for the first hour, be completely discombobulated.
Oh,
still come all the way back.
Tell me you heard about the tape on the ear holes.
Yeah, I mean, even before that, poor Jared is like going like this, trying to fucking call the plays, can't audible for shit. Like,
did you hear about part of the shitty fucking stadium falling apart?
Yes, I did.
Like, dog, it's time to build another one. Okay,
it's
time to build another one. This motherfucker withstood a hurricane 10 years ago. And y'all can't build another one. Y'all got a championship. Y'all are the loudest stadium in the NFC South. Fucking build one.
Yeah,
Falcons have been through two in the time that y'all had the goddamn Superdome. Like, open it up, man. Like, what the
Like
shit?
they've hosted literally half the Super Bowls in there.
Like, man, I'm not gonna lie. I'm so
yeah.
happy. I am so happy the Saints fucking lost yesterday. It is amazing to me. Y'all cashed in your future to try to go all in. I can't say I blame you because the Rams did the same thing. They went in a different direction with it. They didn't trade fucking for backup quarterbacks and backup cornerbacks and move up in the first round to get a defensive end that made 10 tackles all year. They didn't do that. But the Saints now have one pick in the first 4 rounds of this upcoming draft.
Yeah.
I actually one of the things, maybe we can end the show on this. Get some comments in the down below. Is Drew Brees done, man? Was this Drew's last game? Because
that is a legitimate question at this point.
As you said, man, it looked like Drew hit a wall towards the end of that year. From the from the Cowboys game on, 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He threw 8 all year. He threw 6 in the last
month and a half.
Yeah, last 6 games.
If you're a Saints fan, I have a hard time seeing how that is not a point of major
and then who is Taysom Hill really the future? Or
I mean that one pass he threw, that shit was getting down there, but I mean that's one pass out of how many dropbacks a quarterback has to make in this era of offense.
I don't think.
Can they get some younger receivers? Like, are we finally done with this whole Ted Ginn odyssey? Like, no disrespect to the man's career, but
Ted Ginn feels like
such a journeyman.
He feels like he's been playing since I was in middle school.
Yeah, like he was one of the main guys when Cam went off during his MVP year, and then they hit a wall in the Super Bowl. Like,
and he's played for he's actually played for more teams than I thought he did.
Yeah, at some point you got to get you got to revamp, man.
Holy shit! I didn't realize Ted Ginn had played for Arizona.
He's been around.
Miami, San Francisco, Carolina, Arizona, back to Carolina, and now in New Orleans. So yeah, journeyman wide receiver. He's never had more than 790 in a season, and that was
even Drew Brees' arm struggles aside, they definitely could have used Brandon Cooks, a quick, small dude to go downfield, but you trade him away.
Trade him away.
Oh, you trade him away.
So, imagine that offense with Brandon Cooks and Michael Thomas.
Filthy.
But they had to have Ted Ginn, man. They had to have him. Him and his fucking 53 catches. Oh man, I love it.
Yeah,
I love watching.
But yesterday, all in all, was definitely a unique day. It's funny how I remember us talking to Zach and Aaron in the chat about how no road team had advanced to the Super Bowl since 2012 when Colin Kaepernick and Joe Flacco did it simultaneously. And yesterday, Tom Brady and Jared Goff did it simultaneously. And just to, not to get too much on my own personal soapbox, but next week we will be having our full top to bottom Super Bowl preview show. But I just want to make a quick note for some of our more local, or at least local to my area, fans and subscribers, or just general people who will, come across this. Between Tom Brady and Jared Goff and C.J. Anderson and Brandon Cooks and Marcus Peters, 510, this is going to be a very Northern California, Bay Area-centric Super Bowl, except for the fact that neither one of the bum-ass Bay Area or Bay Area and Southern Nevada teams are participating in it. Just like I told all you clowns and bozos and goofballs in the 49er and Raider fan base who are constantly bickering over a little bullshit with each other year after year as if anyone's going to do anything. Every August, I tell you, the Raiders and the Niners aren't going to do shit. The Raiders and the Niners aren't going to do shit. The Raiders and the Niners aren't going to do shit. And that's just if I'm telling you, bro. I know you probably have a similar dynamic down there, maybe between you and Panther fans or you and Bucks fans or whatever the case may be. But I find myself dragging both of these fan bases down the avenue of truth, kicking and screaming.
I actually another interesting note that I wanted to kind of touch on with this Super Bowl, both starting running backs, former University of Georgia Bulldogs, Todd Gurley, Sony Michel. Sony actually tied a very interesting record for most touchdowns in a single postseason, with five rushing touchdowns. He actually tied another former Georgia Bulldog that pretty significant, let's say 10 years ago, Terrell Davis. Terrell Davis had 5 rushing touchdowns, most in a postseason, and Sony tied it, and he could break it in the Super Bowl. I'm kind of torn. I very much would like to see. The good news is I'm going to see at least one Georgia Bulldog running back get a ring.
Right.
I don't want it to be Sony. I'm sorry. I loved Sony when he was in Georgia, but I don't want him to do it. But as far as like the dynamic goes between other fans, I think that's where your situation is a little more unique in that we don't have. I mean, San Francisco and Oakland are pretty close to each other, whereas the closest to us, I want to say, is Charlotte. But Charlotte and Atlanta are still a good bit of ways away from each other.
Right.
I want to say probably the closest, the most heated rival we have. I mean, Carolina's been a rival of ours for 20 plus years. New Orleans goes back even further. I would probably say,
man, that's back to like the 60s, isn't it?
Yeah, that's back to when both teams, I think both teams came in the league like within a year of each other. Like Atlanta came first and then New Orleans was like the following year.
Right.
I mean, you remember the Falcons and the Saints used to be part of the old NFC West. So the 49ers and Rams both used to be rivals with us as well.
Correct.
Which was very hard for me because I used to be a little bit of a 49ers fan because of Steve Young and Jerry Rice. But yeah, man, the Saints, that's probably there's no kind of like let's hold our hands and talk about some hard truth because fuck Saints fans. Whereas 49ers and y'all have kind of a geographical rivalry, but it's not like it's not.
We have very very little to do with each other pertaining to actual competition.
Yeah.
And that's the part out here. It's really more generational and territorial in terms of the bad blood between the two. But as far as actual X's and O's, these two fucking teams don't have shit to do with each other outside of a few meaningless regular season games.
Probably the only thing that could probably come close is maybe Atlanta and Tennessee, the Titans. I don't think they're – hell, I think the Titans and I wonder if they're closer to each other than Atlanta and Charlotte. Like, geographically, I'm not sure. But, yeah, I mean, one AFC, one NFC, whereas Carolina's a division rival, and fuck all of them. We don't care.
Right.
But, yeah, man, I mean, I'm going to be very interested to dive into more of the Super Bowl news and notes. I'm gonna have to tap into a resource or two to find up some interesting tidbits for next week's show.
Yeah, it's like I say, we're gonna go much more into detail next week. I mean, just to kind of give a little bit of a preview, my early sentiments are my feeling right now is very similar to what my feeling was early last year when we found out that it was going to be Nick Foles and those boys in green going up against the dynasty. I'm like, this is a bad matchup. Yeah. It's not going to go well.
That's what I keep thinking every time somebody brings up, like, oh, fucking Brady's going to roll. Like, everybody thought that shit last year, too.
Yeah, I feel like as the days go along and I really get a chance to kind of dive into what the actual matchups were going to be, then I'll come around a little bit like, okay, maybe it'll be decent at the least. And then, it'll play out, and either way, ultimately I think it will be pretty entertaining. But we'll definitely be getting into it. Well, I mean, that's ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap us up for this week's primary podcast show. As always, if you are not a member of our Sports Wars group on Facebook, check us out. Go to the search bar, type in Sports Wars GG. We'll pop right up. We are the best sports group on Facebook. No contest bar none. Check us out on Twitter as well as Instagram. If you have anyone who's not aware of what we do, be sure to share, spread the word, and also check out what we do within Geeks and Gamers as a whole. There's a lot more to it than just what Jeremy says. Okay. I will give you the floor, sir, for any shitty shout outs that you have.
The only shitty shout out I got this week is to the surprise of Saints fans, the NFL officiating. Man, y'all gotta do better, man. There was a couple very notable kind of missed, questionable calls in both championship games. I don't know what you got to do to fix it, but I know what they say, no news is bad news, or they said what's the saying that if they're not talking about you?
No press is bad press.
Yeah, so I mean they're talking about it. I mean, we've been talking about this fucking miss PI all day. Football has dominated on a day where fans are realizing there's one game left in the year and we're 14 days away from it, or 13 days away from it now. We've talked about football all fucking day. So, I mean, that's a good thing. But in the same way, man, you got to do better. You can't have games like that decided on missed calls. I don't know about y'all, but I absolutely don't want to hear, oh, yeah, the league office said that they fucked up. Like, no, that doesn't change the outcome of the game. I don't want to hear they admitted they fucked up. So, yeah, definitely a shitty shout out to NFL officiating. I don't know what they have to do to make it better. Full-time officials, simplify the rule book, scale this shit down. It's a multi-billion-dollar organization that's only going to get more money once gambling kicks in. And you best believe that once gambling starts, people are going to get very fucking happy with blown calls. And the little thing in the rule book about, it's up to the commissioner's discretion to replay a blatantly bad call. You can't do that. That can't be in the rule book simply because it's a slippery slope, man. It's as soon as they decide, this was so bad that we can replay it, where is that line? Like, it's a game deciding play. What at what point? I mean, game deciding plays happen in every quarter. Every play has the potential to be a game deciding play. Who decides?
Correct.
So you can't do the whole let's replay from that point on. Because what were they going to do? They were going to suit everybody back up and do it on Monday or Tuesday. And the Patriots like, fuck yeah, go do that shit.
Yeah.
Go out there and let Todd Gurley blow his fucking knee out with 2 minutes to play in a game that was already over with. So I don't know what they got to do to fix it. They got to fix it. That's it, man. Just fix the NBA, fix the NFL refs. Tell us what a fucking catch is.
Yeah, simplify that shit on down. My shout out, which is a little bit more on the petty side, a little bit more on the callous side, a little bit more on the just hooligan and asshole side that we all know I can tend to go over from time to time. San Diego Superchargers, San Diego Chokers. So first for San Diego Superchargers choke, and then the Kansas City Chiefs choked. You know what that means? That team up in the mountains, they have they have 3 Super Bowls.
The Raiders.
The tribal leaders in Missouri, they have 1. The electricity in Southern California, still donut, Zipperino. And even though I'm so fed up with them right now, those black-eyed, tar-faced bastards in the East Bay still got free rings. We still ring check you bitches. Kansas City, you went out there on your home field and you don't get pissed off at me, political people. You literally lost to a bunch of white boys. A spade is a spade. Reality is reality. You took an L.
You lost
New
to a
England's
bunch
going
of
back to the
lacrosse
Super
players,
Bowl.
you bitches.
That's all we got for you this week. Check us out on every social network. Stay tuned for our Super Bowl preview show next week, and we'll catch you later. Peace.
And a special AFC Championship. Fuck Tom Brady.